The massive Imperial ship appeared in Earth's orbit on a quiet Tuesday morning. Its size blocked out the sun over several cities, casting long shadows across the land. But in the high-security command center of Earth Defense Fleet, Admiral Marcus Stone didn't even blink. He just sipped his coffee and watched the massive vessel on the main screen. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Wilson from his station. The young officer's hands moved quickly across his control panel, but his voice remained steady. Admiral Stone nodded. "Put them through." The screen flickered, revealing a tall figure in ornate golden armor. The alien's features were humanoid, but with metallic blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the ship's lights. "I am Grand Ambassador Vex of the Eternal Galactic Empire. We have come to welcome Earth into our peaceful union of 10,000 worlds." Stone's expression didn't change. 20 years of leading Earth's hidden defense force had taught him to read between the lines. This wasn't an invitation. It was a demand wrapped in pretty words. "Thank you for your greeting, Ambassador," Stone replied, his voice calm and measured. "Earth is honored by your attention." Behind him, silent orders flashed across screens as Earth's defense grid quietly came online. The ambassador's expression shifted slightly. "We have studied your world from afar. Your civilization has achieved spaceflight, yet you maintain primitive weapons. The Empire offers you protection and advancement." Stone allowed himself a small smile. The Empire had only seen what Earth wanted them to see. The primitive weapons were just the surface layer, a carefully crafted illusion maintained for precisely this moment. "We would need time to consult with Earth's United Council," Stone said, buying precious minutes as hidden sensors analyzed every inch of the Imperial vessel. The ambassador's face showed the first signs of irritation. "The Empire's generosity is not unlimited, Admiral. We require your answer within one planetary rotation." In the background, Stone's eye assistant, Davy, was processing centuries of human military history. Reports flashed across his private screen. Wars, battles, strategies, victories, defeats, innovations, the entire bloody history of humanity's endless conflicts. The Empire's diplomatic AI was also at work, analyzing Earth's data. But something was wrong. The patterns it found didn't match any known civilization. Most species had a clear progression. Tribal conflicts, then unity, then peace. But humans were different. They never stopped fighting. They just got better at it. "Ambassador," Stone said, "perhaps we could discuss this over a meal." Earth has many peaceful traditions of diplomatic discussion. The ambassador smiled, clearly pleased by what seemed like submission. "The Empire accepts. We will send a delegation." As the transmission ended, Stone's calm facade remained unchanged. But inside the command center, activity exploded. Hidden bunkers worldwide began powering up. Orbital platforms disguised as communications satellites revealed their true nature. And deep beneath the oceans, sleeping giants of war stirred to life. Lieutenant Wilson approached with a datapad. "Sir, the Empire's ship has multiple weaknesses in its lower quadrant. Their shield technology is advanced, but they've never needed to innovate beyond their basic designs. No one's challenged them in thousands of years." Stone nodded. "And their weapons? Powerful, but predictable. They rely on overwhelming force rather than tactical flexibility. They've never faced an enemy that thinks like us." Stone stood up and walked to the window overlooking the city below. People went about their daily lives, seemingly unaware of the massive ship above. But he knew better. Every human on Earth had grown up with stories of alien invasions. They had played games simulating cosmic conflicts. They had watched movies about humanity fighting against impossible odds. They had prepared for this moment without even knowing it. "Send word to the Council," Stone ordered. "Tell them it's time to wake the sleeping dragon. And contact Fleet Commander Thompson. She'll deliver our message to the Empire." As his orders were carried out, Stone watched the Imperial ship looming in the sky. The Empire thought they had found another peaceful world to absorb into their collective. Instead, they had just encountered humanity, a species that had turned war into an art form, peace into a mask, and preparation into a way of life. The Empire was about to learn a very important lesson about humans. They should have listened to the warnings in our stories. They should have paid attention to our history. They should have realized that our peace wasn't from lack of ability, but from hard-learned wisdom. And soon, very soon, they would understand why they should have run. The United Earth Council chamber was silent as Fleet Commander Lisa Thompson stepped up to the podium. The circular room, buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, held representatives from every nation on Earth. Above them, massive screens showed the Imperial ship still hanging in orbit like a sword over their heads. "The Empire expects our surrender in 18 hours," Thompson said, her voice clear and strong. "They believe we will choose submission over destruction. They are wrong." On the screens, data streamed past, the results of Earth's hidden scans of the Imperial vessel. Their technology was impressive, built on thousands of years of uncontested rule. But it was also stagnant, unchanged by the fires of real conflict. "For 300 years, Thompson continued, "we've hidden our true strength. While they watched our civilian ships, our real fleet waited in the shadows of gas giants and asteroid fields. While they studied our outdated weapons, our quantum laboratories built devices they can't imagine. While they saw our peace, we prepared for war." The council members nodded. Each of them had been chosen not just for their political skill, but for their understanding of history. They knew that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons, but in its endless drive to improve them. Thompson pressed a button, and new images filled the screens. "This is what the Empire doesn't know about us. Our ships don't just carry weapons. Every civilian vessel can transform into a combat unit. Our space stations aren't just for science. They're fortress platforms. Our children don't just play video games. They train on combat simulators designed by military AI." In orbit, the Imperial ship's sensors detected unusual energy readings from Earth, but their analysts dismissed them. After all, what could a primitive species do against the eternal Empire? "We tried to warn them," Thompson said, bringing up images from humanity's archives. "Every story we've broadcast into space, every movie about alien invasion, every game about interstellar war, they were all warnings. We showed the galaxy exactly what we could do, and they thought it was just entertainment." The council president stood up. "You have our authorization, Commander. Deliver our message." Thompson nodded and left the chamber. In her pocket was a small data crystal containing humanity's entire military history. Every war, every battle, every conflict that had shaped human civilization. The Empire was about to learn why Earth had worked so hard to maintain peace. An hour later, Thompson's diplomatic shuttle approached the Imperial vessel. It was a small ship, deliberately simple in design. The Empire scanners showed no weapons, no unusual technology. They didn't realize that the ship itself was a weapon, built with technology that their sensors couldn't even detect. The Imperial docking bay was massive, designed to impress with its scale and grandeur. Thompson walked calmly through it, flanked by 2 junior officers. The Imperial guards watched them with barely hidden amusement. These primitives didn't even carry proper energy weapons, just simple projectile guns. In the ship's grand reception hall, Ambassador Vex waited on a floating throne. "Have you brought Earth's surrender, Commander?" Thompson reached into her pocket and placed the data crystal on the floor. A hologram sprang to life, showing scenes from human history. Armies clashing across centuries. Ships battling on seas of water and space. The evolution of warfare from sticks and stones to atoms and antimatter. "This is not our surrender, Ambassador," Thompson said quietly. "This is our warning. Every species you've encountered reached for the stars in peace. They built their civilizations on cooperation and harmony. But humans, We climbed to space on rockets designed for war. We split the atom to make bombs before we used it for power. We turned our deadliest poisons into medicines. Everything we create serves two purposes: peace and war." The ambassador's smug expression began to fade as the images continued. The hologram showed humanity's response to threats throughout history. The massive mobilizations, the rapid technological advances, the sheer, unstoppable determination. "We don't want war," Thompson said, her voice echoing in the suddenly silent hall. "We've seen too much of it. That's why we're giving you this one chance, this one warning." She turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. "Run." Behind her, the data crystal continued its display, showing the Empire exactly what they were about to face. And for the first time in 10,000 years, fear crept into their hearts. The Imperial attack began at dawn. 3 warships emerged from hyperspace near Mars' colony, their golden hulls gleaming in the pale sunlight. The Empire had decided to teach these upstart humans a lesson in humility. "Target their main dome," ordered Captain Rex of the Imperial First Strike Fleet. "One shot should be enough to make them beg for mercy." The massive ships charged their main guns, energy building up in geometric patterns along their hulls. On their screens, Mars' colony looked helpless, a collection of simple domes and solar panels. The first shot never reached its target. A shimmer in space was the only warning before the civilian mining platforms around Mars transformed. Hidden panels slid away, revealing rows of quantum phase cannons. The Empire's energy shields, undefeated for millennia, shattered like glass. "Impossible," Rex shouted as his sensors exploded with new contacts. The asteroids around Mars were moving, revealing themselves as disguised warships. The colony's solar panels unfolded into weapon arrays. Even the surface of Mars rippled as hidden bunkers opened. In Earth's command center, Admiral Stone watched the feeds with calm satisfaction. "Execute Pattern Delta," he ordered. "Show them what a real fight looks like." Human ships emerged from their hiding places, but they didn't fight like the Empire expected. Instead of forming neat battle lines, they scattered like startled birds, each ship moving independently. The Empire's targeting computers couldn't keep up with the chaos. "Their formations make no sense," Rex's tactical officer shouted. "They're not following any known combat doctrine." "Because we don't fight like you," came a transmission from one of the human vessels. "We fight like us." The human ships struck from all angles, using maneuvers that seemed suicidal to Imperial observers. They dove through their own explosion clouds, using the debris as cover. They fired their engines in ways that should have torn their ships apart, pulling turns that defied Imperial physics models. "Status report," Rex demanded. "2 ships heavily damaged, 1 dead in space," his officer replied, voice shaking. "The humans, they're not just fighting, sir. They're hunting us." The Empire had expected a simple show of force. Instead, they found themselves in a combat environment unlike anything in their records. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were fighting with the accumulated knowledge of thousands of years of warfare. Back on Earth, Stone received a priority message from the Mars Defense Commander. "Sir, should we show them everything?" Stone considered for a moment. "No, just enough to make them understand. Level 2 capabilities only." Even with that limitation, the battle was shockingly one-sided. Human ships demonstrated weapons that hadn't existed in their public databases, stealth systems that made ships vanish and reappear at will, armor that adapted to enemy fire, missiles that learned as they flew. In orbit around Mars, the last Imperial ship tried to retreat. Its engines flared as it turned away from the red planet, but it had forgotten about the civilian cargo ships it had ignored earlier. The massive transport vessels shed their false hulls, revealing heavily armed battlecruisers. They moved with impossible grace for their size, cutting off the Imperial ship's escape route. "This is Commander Jack West of the Earth Defense Fleet," a new voice transmitted. "You came to our home and threatened our people. We warned you to run. You chose not to listen. The Imperial captain watched in horror as his ship's systems shut down one by one, disabled by weapons he couldn't even detect. His mighty vessel, pride of the Imperial fleet, hung helpless in space. "Please," he began. "You're not our enemy yet," West replied. "But you could be. Take your ship home. Show your leaders what happened here. And remember, what you saw today wasn't our best technology. It wasn't our strongest weapons. It wasn't even our full fleet." As the human ships allowed the crippled Imperial vessel to limp away, Admiral Stone made a final entry in his log. First contact scenario 7 completed. The Empire now understands that humanity doesn't just prepare for war. We master it. They thought their technology made them invincible. We showed them that innovation born from conflict will always defeat stagnation born from peace. The giant had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the Imperial Central Archive, High Commander Vax stared at his screens in disbelief. The data from the Mars battle had triggered an emergency analysis of human history, and what they found terrified him. "Play it again," he ordered. The holographic display lit up, showing scenes from Earth's military history, ancient armies clashing with spears and swords, massive metal vessels battling across vast oceans, flying machines dueling in the clouds. Each era showed not just new weapons, but entirely new ways of thinking about war. "Sir," his analyst spoke up, "we found something called the art of war in their public databases. It's over 2,000 years old." "What is it?" Vax asked. "A book about warfare, but not just about weapons or tactics. It's about understanding war itself, and it's just one of thousands like it." The screens filled with more titles. On War, The Book of 5 Rings, Infantry Attacks, Centuries of Human Military Thought, freely available for anyone to study. The Empire had always kept military knowledge restricted to its warriors. Humans shared it like common knowledge. In another part of the archive, researchers watched recordings from Earth's entertainment networks. What they had dismissed as primitive fiction now revealed itself as something else entirely. "These aren't just stories," a researcher reported to Vax. "They're exercises in military thinking. Their video games are combat simulators. Their movies explore different scenarios of war. Even their children play at war, learning strategy before they can read." Vax walked to the main strategic display where dots of light showed the current battles across space. The Empire's forces were facing something they'd never encountered before. An enemy that didn't fight like an army, but like thousands of armies all at once. "Report from the Centauri sector," an officer announced. "Human ships are using something called guerrilla tactics. They strike our supply lines and disappear. We can't fight what we can't catch." Another screen showed human soldiers adapting Imperial weapons in the field, modifying them in ways their creators never imagined. They didn't just use technology. They changed it, improved it, made it their own. "Sir," his tactical advisor said, "the humans have a concept they call asymmetric warfare. They don't try to match our strength. They turn our strength against us." The evidence was undeniable. While the Empire had spent millennia perfecting one way of war, humans had developed thousands. They didn't have a single military doctrine. They had all of them. And they could switch between strategies as easily as changing clothes. A new alert flashed on the main screen. A human fleet had been cornered by Imperial forces near Jupiter. The Empire's ships moved in for an easy victory, outnumbering the humans 10-1. But something was wrong. "The humans are smiling," reported the Imperial commander. "Their crews are smiling at us." Moments later, the human ships executed what their records called a crazy Ivan, a maneuver so reckless it defied Imperial combat logic. They turned directly into the Empire's formation, launching waves of missiles that split apart in flight, each piece becoming a new weapon. The Imperial fleet, trained to fight in perfect order, couldn't adapt to the chaos. Their neat formations became a disadvantage, their ships getting in each other's way as they tried to respond. In his command center, Vax watched another Imperial fleet fall to human ingenuity. How do they think of these things? He wondered aloud. His analyst looked up from a historical text. Sir, I think I found the answer. Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. They created all these strategies because they had to. While we fought the same way for thousands of years, they were forced to constantly innovate just to survive their own wars. Vax turned off the battle display. He couldn't watch anymore. The Empire had thought its superior technology and ancient traditions would guarantee victory. Instead, they had awakened something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that had turned warfare into an art form and survival into a science. War, he muttered, reading from a human text, is not about who's right. It's about who's left. For the first time in his life, a high commander of the Eternal Empire felt truly afraid. The Imperial Security Council met in their emergency bunker for the first time in 5,000 years. The massive chamber, designed to withstand any attack, felt smaller today. On the walls, screens showed the ongoing analysis of human civilization, and each new discovery made the council members more uncomfortable. "Show me their space program again," ordered High Commander Vax. The main screen lit up with images of Earth's early rockets. An analyst stepped forward. "Sir, we've discovered something disturbing. Every human space achievement had a military origin. Their first rockets, weapons, their satellite network, originally for warfare. Their moon landing, part of a military competition. That's impossible," another council member protested. "No species develops spaceflight through warfare. It's always driven by curiosity, by the desire to explore." "Humans are different," the analyst continued. "Look at their International Space Station. We thought it was just a primitive research platform." The screen showed detailed scans of the old station, hidden weapon mounts, reinforced armor, emergency military protocols. It wasn't just a science station. It was their first orbital defense platform. A new set of images appeared, showing human satellites. Every communications satellite they've launched in the past 50 years has military-grade sensors. They're weather satellites. They're also designed for tactical observation. Even their civilian GPS network is built to military specifications. High Commander Vax stood up and walked closer to the screens. "What about their colonies? Mars, Venus?" The analyst changed the display. "Every human colony is built like a fortress. Underground bunkers, hidden weapon systems, emergency military protocols." They claimed they were preparing for natural disasters, but they were really preparing for us, for any alien contact. "Their entire civilization is a weapon," whispered one of the council members. "Not just their civilization," the analyst corrected. "Their culture." He brought up images from human entertainment. "These aren't just stories about alien invasion. They're battle plans, training scenarios. They've been practicing for this moment through their games, their movies, their books. Every piece of science fiction they created was a military exercise in disguise." The council watched in silence as more data streamed across the screens. Human children playing with toys that taught them basic tactical thinking. Schools that included military history in their regular curriculum. Video games that doubled as combat simulators. "What about their scientific research?" someone asked. "That's the most frightening part," the analyst replied. "Every major human scientific breakthrough has dual applications. Their medical advances, also biological warfare research. Their agricultural improvements, also food security for wartime. Their clean energy projects, also power systems for warships." He brought up a new display, showing human research facilities. They don't just prepare for one type of war. They prepare for every type. Chemical, biological, psychological, economic, cyber warfare. They've studied it all. They even have plans for fighting time travelers and alternate dimensions. "Surely that's just fantasy," a council member scoffed. "Is it?" Vax asked quietly. Look how many of their other fantasies turned out to be real capabilities. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire had spent millennia believing they were the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Now they faced a species that had turned their entire existence into preparation for war. "There's more," the analyst said reluctantly. "We found their contingency plans. Thousands of them. Plans for if we attacked Earth. Plans for if we attacked their colonies. Plans for if we tried to negotiate. Plans for if we retreated. They even have plans for scenarios we haven't thought of yet." Vax stared at the screens, watching recordings of human ships executing maneuvers that seemed to defy physics. They weren't just waiting for first contact, he realized. They were getting ready for it. Every moment of peace was a moment they used to prepare for war. The analyst nodded. Their old military saying was peace through strength, but they went beyond that. They achieved peace through constant preparation for war. And now we've given them a reason to use everything they've prepared. Vax finished. We didn't find a primitive civilization today. We found humanity's mask, and we were foolish enough to make them take it off. On the screens, another Imperial fleet went dark, defeated by tactics they'd never imagined possible. The Empire was learning a hard lesson. There's nothing more dangerous than a species that has spent its entire existence preparing for a fight it hoped would never come. The Imperial flagship Eternal Glory drifted dead in space, its golden hull scared and dark. Around it, the debris of 30 other Imperial warships floated silently. They had been defeated not by a superior force, but by a single human vessel that their sensors couldn't even detect properly. On the bridge of the Earth Defense Force ship Normandy, Captain Tom Miller watched the scans of the defeated Imperial fleet. His small stealth vessel had just accomplished what the Empire had thought impossible: the complete defeat of an Imperial battle group by a single ship. "Status report," Miller ordered, his voice calm despite the historic victory. "All Imperial ships disabled, sir," his tactical officer reported. "No casualties on either side. Our ghost drive worked perfectly. They never knew where we really were." The Empire's mighty ships had been firing at sensor ghosts, while the real Normandy struck from unexpected angles. Human stealth technology, developed through centuries of warfare, had proven superior to Imperial detection systems that had never needed to improve. In the Imperial Central Command, alarms blared as more reports flooded in from across space. The Empire's forces were facing defeat after defeat, not because humans had better ships or weapons, but because they fought in ways that made no sense to Imperial military doctrine. "They're using our own communication channels against us," an Imperial commander shouted as his fleet's coordination systems were hacked and turned into weapons. Human cyber warfare specialists had taken decades of gaming experience and turned it into real combat skills. Another Imperial fleet found itself trapped when human ships released what appeared to be an innocent cloud of debris. The debris turned out to be millions of tiny robots that attached themselves to Imperial ships, disrupting their systems. The humans had turned even their space junk into weapons. "Report from the Alpha Centauri front," an officer announced in Imperial command. "The humans are using civilian cargo ships as carriers. They're launching fighter craft from vessels we didn't even consider military targets." High Commander Vax watched in growing horror as the Empire's military doctrine, unchanged for millennia, crumbled in the face of human adaptability. Their perfect formations were useless against an enemy that ignored the rules of proper space combat. Their standardized tactics failed against opponents who changed strategies mid-battle. "They're in our computer systems," another officer shouted. "They're using our own entertainment networks to spread fear through our ranks." The humans had begun broadcasting their war movies, their games, their stories of alien invasion throughout Imperial space. But what the Empire had dismissed as primitive entertainment now served as psychological warfare. Imperial citizens watched in terror as human fiction proved to be prophecy. "Sir," a junior officer approached Vax, "we've detected something strange from Earth. They're playing music during battles." Vax pulled up the report. Human ships were broadcasting what they called battle soundtracks, music specifically designed to intimidate enemies and boost morale. The psychological effect on Imperial troops was devastating. They weren't just being defeated, they were being defeated to a soundtrack that made their losses feel inevitable. In Earth's command center, Admiral Stone received the latest victory reports. The Empire's mighty fleets were retreating in disarray, their perfect military order shattered by human chaos theory applied to warfare. "Sir," Lieutenant Wilson reported, "Imperial forces are pulling back across all fronts. Their commanders are refusing to engage our ships. They're saying—" He paused, checking his data. "They're saying we don't fight fair." Stone allowed himself a small smile. "We never claimed we would. Fair fights are for training. Real combat is about winning." The Empire's military had been built on the assumption that warfare was a noble art with proper rules and procedures. Humanity had shown them that real war had only one rule: survive. A final transmission came in from an Imperial commander before his fleet retreated. "You could have been civilized warriors like us. Why do you choose to fight like this?" The response from the human fleet was simple: because in real war, the only honor is in protecting your people, and we'll do whatever it takes to do that. As the Imperial forces fled from another defeat, they finally understood. They hadn't just found a new enemy. They had found a species that had spent its entire existence preparing for this moment, and they had been foolish enough to make humanity use that preparation. The Imperial Palace's Great Hall had never been so quiet. 10,000 years of traditions, of unquestioned rule, of absolute power, all of it changed by 3 weeks of conflict with humanity. The Imperial Council sat in silence as they watched the final battle reports. 40% of our fleet is disabled or destroyed, High Commander Vax reported. Another 30% refuses to engage human forces. The remaining ships, he paused, looking down at his datapad, the remaining ships are requesting permission to surrender. The Emperor, speaking directly to the Council for the first time in centuries, leaned forward on his crystal throne. How did we lose to a species that hasn't even unified their own planet? Because we became exactly what they feared. Admiral Stone's voice filled the hall as the human's hologram appeared in the center of the room. The Empire's best security systems hadn't even detected the transmission hack. "You became comfortable," Stone continued. "You forgot the most important lesson of power. The strong aren't those who never face challenge, but those who learn from every challenge they face." The Emperor stood, his ornate armor gleaming. "You could have joined us peacefully. We offered you civilization." "No," Stone corrected. "You offered us submission disguised as peace. But humans don't submit. We adapt. We evolve. We overcome." The great screens around the hall lit up, showing scenes from the brief but devastating war. Human ships appearing from nowhere to disable Imperial fleets. Civilian vessels transforming into weapon platforms. Imperial technology turned against its makers by human hackers who had spent their lives preparing for exactly this kind of challenge. "We tried to warn you," Stone said softly. "Every story we told about aliens, every movie we made about invasion, every game we designed about interstellar war, they were all warnings. We showed you exactly what we could do, and you dismissed it as primitive entertainment." The Emperor sank back into his throne. "What do you want? To destroy our empire? To take our worlds?" Stone's hologram shook his head. "If we wanted that, we would have done it already. No, we want something much simpler. Respect. Recognition that humanity is not your subject, but your equal, perhaps in some ways. Your superior." "Superior?" An Imperial Council member scoffed. "You're barely out of your own solar system." And yet, Stone smiled. "Here we are, having defeated your undefeatable fleet, having breached your unbreachable defenses, having proven that 10,000 years of peace can make an empire forget how to face a real challenge." The Emperor raised his hand for silence. "Speak your terms, human. Simple. You recognize Earth and all human colonies as independent territory. You establish diplomatic relations with us as equals. You learn from this experience, as we have learned from every conflict in our history. And most importantly, Stone's hologram stepped closer to the Emperor. You remember why we warned you to run. The choice was clear. The Empire could continue fighting and face more humiliating defeats, or it could adapt, could learn from humanity's example that strength comes not from stability, but from constant preparation and evolution. And if we agree? The Emperor asked. Then you gain something your empire hasn't had in millennia, a genuine ally. Someone who can help you remember how to face challenges. Someone who can help you grow stronger through adversity rather than weaker through comfort. The Emperor looked at his council, at the defeat in their eyes, at the fear of humanity's demonstrated capabilities. Then he looked back at Stone's hologram and saw something else. An offered hand, a chance to learn, to grow, to become something more than just an empire of comfortable rulers. We accept, the Emperor said. Stone nodded. Then let this be the day the galaxy learns something humanity has always known. True peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the wisdom to learn from conflict, to prepare for it, to face it when necessary, and to grow stronger from it. As the human hologram faded, the Emperor turned to his council. Send word to all our worlds. The age of comfortable peace is over. The age of prepared peace begins. And let every citizen of the Empire remember, when humanity warned us to run, we should have listened. Instead, we learned, and perhaps that was the greater victory after all. In Earth's command center, Admiral Stone looked out at the stars. Humanity had emerged onto the galactic stage, not as supplicants or subjects, but as teachers. They had shown the galaxy that true strength lies not in power, but in preparation. Not in stability, but in adaptability. The Empire had wanted to civilize humanity. Instead, humanity had taught the Empire how to survive.